Hey guys, I hope everyone's having a good week with this module. So I kind of just wanted to do my best on this group presentation and just kind of talk about the subject in a way that it made sense to me. I don't have too many videos or things, but again, like I told you guys in the last video, I watched a lot of Leia Forsai. She had a really helpful video. Khan Academy is always good. But to kind of address this topic, I just picked a couple photos, and I'll just show them to you, as I go through all of these topics. But the first thing I want to talk about is simply oxygen. So oxygen is a very important step in this process. It's actually the main step on how everything, starts. So oxygen, it's a terminal electron acceptor, which binds to those electrons, which binds to protein and is released as water. But we have to ask, how does it get to the cells? So if you think about it, we first breathe in air and we get O2, oxygen, and it enters the lungs, and from the lungs it gets picked up by the red blood cells, which will transport it to the rest of the body. So I simply just pulled up just a standard picture of a red blood cell. I think the important part to take away from this is A, the shape, and B, the fact that it has no nucleus or a mitochondria. And what I found interesting is the reasoning for this. The reason why it's shaped like this is so that it's a disc-like shape, but it can go through the bloodstream and it helps transfer the oxygen. And as the blood cell matures, that's when it loses, the nucleus and the mitochondria, and that's why it has so much room to carry that protein that we're going to get to, obviously, which is called hemoglobin. On a side note, the red blood cell really does pick up a lot of its energy from glycolysis, which we will learn more about in future modules. But also an interesting fact, that 35% of the red blood cell is made up by hemoglobin, which literally is physically the protein that carries the oxygen. So again, here guys, this is just a basic picture. So the red blood cell is going to go into the hemoglobin, and then the hemoglobin has 4 subunits, which are called hemes. Kind of to jump in about basic definition of hemoglobin. We've been studying this for a while, but it is a protein in the red blood cells, and the subunits are 2 alpha subunits and 2 beta subunits, and then each of those subunits, and I'll hold up the camera now so you can see this picture of the subunits in each heme group. They're the ones that contain the iron that binds to the oxygen molecule, allowing the hemoglobin molecules to bind to 4 oxygen molecules. Molecules with more oxygen bound to the heme group are brighter red, which I didn't know. As a result, oxygenated arterial blood, where the hemoglobin is carried to 4 oxygen molecules, are bright red, while venous blood that is deoxygenated is darker red. So I actually didn't know that as well. 1 second here. So again, I also found a picture of this online, which I thought was kind of cool. It's a close-up of inside of a heme group. So what you're looking at here, iron 2+ is in the center, bound to 4 nitrogens in a ring, which comes from the amino acid histidine, and this enters and binds to the histidine, which is on the polypeptide chain, which is also the center structure. In addition, the iron will also bind to the O2, to the oxygen. And here is just kind of a sum up of everything I just kind of said. So now the second portion of what we were trying to talk about is explaining the binding capacity of the oxygen to the heme in the lungs, and how this differs from that in other capillaries. So I don't have too many pictures on this subject, but I just kind of wanted to explain it to you as I found it. So the formation of the hemoglobin oxygen complex, also known as oxyhemoglobin, is reversible depending on if the oxygen has partial pressure or full pressure. Oxygen binds in the lungs where pressure is high, and then it dissociates into the tissue where the pressure is low. So hemoglobin is responsible for most of the transport of the oxygen it carries, but it also carries a small amount of carbon dioxide. So the carbon dioxide binds to the polypeptide of the hemoglobin and not to the heme, and its binding changes the conformation of the molecule and decreases its affinity for oxygen. So that being said, the carbon dioxide and the oxygen compete for the binding on the hemoglobin. Oxygen binding is favored in the lungs, as we know, while CO2 binding is more favorable in the tissues. And then lastly, the third question was to explain how carbon dioxide interactions with water can affect the pH. So what I found on that is high concentration of carbon dioxide reduces pH, and then the carbon dioxide reacts with water and also forms carbonic acid, and carbonic acid dissociates and releases protons, and bicarbonate iso is also decreases pH as well. Bicarbonate ion also decreases pH as well. So I hope that helped. Sometimes it's confusing to kind of put it all out there, but I look forward to looking at everybody else's videos and kind of clarify where I lacked and vice versa.